I'm Joanna Young, the Chief Information Officer at the University of New Hampshire in Durham, New Hampshire. And my responsibilities are enterprise systems, academic technology, and infrastructure for the university, as well as providing services to other higher education institutions in the state, and in some respects, the state of New Hampshire. Enterasys is our primary network partner, primarily in the local area network space. One of the major initiatives that Enterasys has been helping us with over the past few years is when I arrived at the university, we had a shortage of wireless. Demand for wireless, what with the students bringing more devices to campus and our faculty and staff needing to be more mobile in their work as they moved around the campus, were not getting sufficient service. And so Enterasys worked with us and partnered with us, and now we have 100% high-speed wireless access in all our residence halls, in most of our academic buildings, and now we are moving on to our athletic facilities. And so we've expanded our capacity, several hundred%. We now have exponentially more bandwidth. The students love it. The faculty and staff love it, and because we have so many constituents that come to campus, they are also able to take advantage of what Enterasys has been able to do with us in this space. The Enterasys relationship was already in place when I arrived at the university about 4 years ago, but it has tremendously strengthened since I've been there. I really want to give a lot of credit to Chris Crowell and his team at Enterasys. They have been with us every step of the way as we have expanded our wireless capacity on the campus. They're very committed to New Hampshire. They're very committed to the University of New Hampshire, and we really appreciate their commitment and partnership. Absolutely. One of the things that we hadn't thought too much about is the opportunity in our athletic facilities. And they've been able to bring to our attention opportunities where we can combine networking and wireless capacity with the experience for our students and the other fans that come and participate in those events. So Enterasys has been able to make us aware of those opportunities, which we're very excited about. Also, as you can appreciate, in a public flagship that's been around for over 100 years, we have some very unique architecture at the university. And Enterasys has been able to work with us to say, and especially our older, historically important buildings, unique ways that we can ensure that people have the technology that they need, but still preserve the integrity of the building. What is special about Enterasys is that they are incredibly flexible. They are incredibly customer focused. They don't look at the University of New Hampshire as just another higher education customer. Enterasys looks at UNH as UNH, and they appreciate the uniqueness of New Hampshire. They appreciate the special nature of our campus and the students, faculty, and staff that are there. And so when we come to them with problems or challenges, or they come to us with opportunities, they really demonstrate a deep understanding of our operations, of our strategies, of the needs of all of our internal and external customers. So when I think about Enterasys, and if I was to talk to another CIO or another business leader, I would say Enterasys will work to understand your business, and they will work with you as you are growing your business, expanding your business, getting into new product lines, whatever the case may be. I think that really is the number one thing that Chris, Vala Afshar, and the other members of the team have brought to the table. I think what's great about Enterasys is that you can call people kind of all up and down and around the organization, and they're going to be responsive. So whether I need to reach out to their CEO, Chris Crowell, he's there for us, Dan Dulac, Vala Afshar, who's their Chief Marketing Officer, Tamara Russo-Vesta, who is in their marketing organization. And what I like about it is that certainly they have the size and scale that's appropriate to meet our needs, but they behave in many ways like that small local company where, you know, you can call anyone from the mechanic to the owner to the salesperson, and they're going to say, I'm here for you. And, you know, if I don't know the answer, I will find someone who does. And I also would like to do a special mention to their technical support folks, whose names I'm not going to necessarily know, but I know from my team that they're extremely responsive. At the drop of the hat, they'll actually, you know, drive up to the Durham campus if there's a problem that requires that physical presence. So, very responsive support team. When you're a CIO, you're looking for a partnership that's a two-way street. You're not looking for somebody that they're selling you something. You're not looking for a transaction that's just monetary. And I think how Enterasys tends to distinguish itself from other vendors is that they fully believe that throughout the organization. And so, not that other vendors are necessarily negative, but I think if you think about the spectrum of vendors to the ones that are maybe not so responsive and the relationship is difficult to maintain, and those vendors where it comes more naturally and easy, Enterasys is more towards the better part of that spectrum. And I think that if I was talking to another vendor, I would say, look at what this company is doing. Look at how it has adapted to how business relationships should be in 2013, and, you know, consider looking at some of the processes and the models that they've put in place, and think about that. This may sound very simple, but sometimes it's often the simple things that make the big differences. Our residence halls, obviously we have some special security protocols that we have to follow because we have, you know, young adults in those halls, and there's only certain times we can get in there to do work. And Enterasys worked with us to make sure that that could happen, and they understood that. And it may, again, sound very simple, but with some of our vendors that can be a stumbling block. So we were happy that they were able to do that. That's one anecdote. The other anecdote is that in our library, we came into an unexpected situation where we went over our capacity very suddenly one fall. We maybe hadn't planned as well as we should have. It was right after the iPads were introduced, and we didn't anticipate how many iPads that our students would be getting under the Christmas tree. And so when they came back to campus, we were a little surprised. And, you know, Enterasys was there for us, and we were able to work together to put a plan quickly to overcome that. So I hope what you're hearing through all of this, again, is the flexibility, the responsiveness. You know, they're there when they pick up the phone when you call. So when I first came to the university, I wasn't very familiar with Enterasys. In my previous CIO role, we had used different vendors to provide these capabilities. And often as a CIO, it can be natural to gravitate towards vendors to whom you already have that existing relationship and experience. So I will admit there was a little bit of a degree of skepticism. And you know, Chris and the Enterasys team, they had to work kind of hard to win me over. You know, there were some days, but they were very persistent. But they weren't persistent in what I would call that annoying salesperson way. They proved to me. They really put their money where their mouth was. They showed up on campus. They came to meetings. They fixed problems for us. They showed willingness to participate in a positive way in our bid process, which, because we're a public institution, can be somewhat onerous. And so because they persisted and they valued the relationship, they persuaded me that I should value the relationship. And now, you know, 3 years later, you know, that really feels like a bit of a dim memory. So we're very happy now. What excites me most about my work is that there's a clear correlation in our country in two ways that I'm really able to participate in. And one is the expansion of broadband and how that affects economic development in communities. And Enterasys, through UNH's work on behalf of the state, is able to be a part of that excitement. And every time we get a little bit further and a little bit more expanded with broadband, I can see the effects on the community anchor institutions and the communities where that happens. The other thing that excites me is that there's a clear tie between higher education and economic development as well. And the more young adults, the more citizens that we can educate, either through undergraduate degrees, professional, post-undergraduate professional degrees, the better off we are. And UNH is on a mission, in particular, to increase science, technology, engineering, and math majors in the state of New Hampshire. And Enterasys is partnering with our College of Engineering and Physical Science that we call CEPS, and they are actually partnering with a number of our faculty in that school to give the students real hands-on experience with networking equipment in their undergraduate experience, and so that they're better positioned to be successful once they leave UNH and go on to whatever their next step is. Well, it's very satisfying when I can connect faculty with one of my technology vendors and extend that relationship from the IT space into the education or the research space. So when you have a vendor that's connected to you in IT, they're participating in the education offerings and they're participating in our research space, that is a very valuable relationship and one that both parties typically then are highly incented to maintain and grow.